Right, we're back with episode 25, I think, of the Midnight Pod. Doing 3 this week. My hair has gone blonde yet again, to many people's disdain. We've got Jack. Second name is fucking complicated.
Zambakides, but just start.
Is that like Greek or some shit?
Yeah, Greek. Good guess.
From LS Personal Shopper and your jewelry brand.
D. Louise.
Remind me. Yeah, sick. And yeah, I guess we were introduced through someone on Instagram, right?
Yeah, someone on Instagram.
And
a friend of mine.
You watched my pod through him.
Yeah, I watched a pod, got a bit hooked, and then here we are. But yeah absolutely scavenged through all of them.
Love to see it. Love to see it.
Part of the cult.
And now you're fucking in. Let's go. I guess first question as usual, and I mean, people give me stick in the comments for this all the time because I never do any fucking research on my guests, but I feel like the actual episode is the genuine conversation and my own research. So first question, just tell us who you are, what you do, kind of your background, I guess, fairly chronologically, and then we can dive into
So my name's Jack Zambakides.
Things.
I run a business called LS Personal Shopper where we sell designer clothes, all that jazz. And then I also run a more ecom brand, which is D. Louise. So we'd sell women's jewelry. Only actually been in the ecom sort of space the last 2 years, but been buying, selling trainers since I was probably about 15, one of those little side hustles. I've had more failed businesses than, well, probably like all of us who end up here. It's been a lot of failures on the way, but sort of started my business career at probably like 14, 15, flipping fake Apple headphones, which I didn't actually realise were on AliExpress, being fake, shotting them at school, then went into the old vintage clothing. As I got older, tried to start a cleaning company, that didn't work. And then just sort of, when I was at university, I spent a bit of time being a bit of a nerd, just building websites. And built one just selling trainers. And I tell this story, I remember being like extremely hungover in this place called Cafe Yolk, which was like the hangover club after a big uni night out, as typical as it sounds. And then I got a notification through my PayPal. It was like, whatever his name is. He sent me £366 on PayPal. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, mate, I've had an absolute touch. Like my night out has been funded and someone's like accidentally sent me this money. Click on it and it loads and it's like, mate, someone's bought something from my website. I was like, fuck, like, what is this? Like, how did he even find it? And then sort of from there, a bit hooked, and then just started spending a lot of time looking into it, growing it. I actually left university and went into a job in the city as like an analyst in a real estate fund, going down that whole like fucking corporate nonsense route where you're looking at everyone next to you and thinking like, do I really want to spend 20 years like, and I'll start looking as bald and miserable as this bloke on my right. And then decided to quit that, and then just thought, right, I'll give this trainer jazz a good go. Left that and unfortunately scaled it really quick. Lockdown hit just as I took on like a showroom space, thinking I was like, here we go. Then furlough money came in and everyone just started spending their money online. So ecom just sort of went booming. So we managed to have really good growth. We sell to quite a few like high net worth footballers, all that jazz. But the main bulk of the business is actually the online, where we just sell to sort of like the everyday person. But yeah, also caught the trend that designer clothes is almost like compulsory for most people nowadays. And we luckily can supply that to them.
Yeah, so you only started in 2020 properly?
Yeah, properly 2020.
Fucking hell, because I was looking at your following and shit.
Yeah, I had the page.
I thought it was way older.
Yeah, no, I had the page, but it was only when I sort of left my job where I was like, fuck, like this is actually, we need to grow. But I think I remember starting lockdown with like 20k followers. So then we've had some good growth. But I always say to people, it's a lot harder for other businesses because we're selling like the stuff which like Instagram's all about. Do you know what I mean? Like, but the picture which gets all the likes is like the guy in Dubai wearing a Dior set on a yacht, like with like girls and like loads of bottles of champagne. Like we're the ones selling the Dior set, so we're sort of on our way, and like the whole algorithm I think sort of helps it. And then luckily with like a few influencers like footballers and all this that hoo-ha, they all love it as well.
Yeah,
so we can.
And then the jewelry brand.
Yeah, jewelry brand. So actually started.
How did that come in?
Started January last year, so it's a business.
2020 or 21?
Yeah, 2021.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so we started that.
Pretty recent.
Then I've had a bit of like testing e-com stuff. We were just selling like rubbish men's bracelets, and we were getting a bit of tractions, and CPA was quite low at the time. Unfortunately not as low now, but then I thought, my girlfriend was basically in a job. I know everyone says don't start a business with your girlfriend, but here we are.
Yeah.
She was not enjoying her job, and I just thought, like, fuck it. I thought, if I put some money into this, and she actually has like the drive and can figure out all the marketing, do all the stuff I don't like doing, we could actually do all right out of this. And yeah, that's been going literally a year, but we did $1 million revenue in the first year, which is fucking good.
Yeah, that is good.
We had
especially in jewelry, it's so crowded now.
Yeah, such a crowded market, but we've managed to brand everything well. The product is really good. It's affordable, cool price point. That's growing. That business actually, I think, is more scalable than LS Personal Shopper, even though I've sort of been at it a bit longer. But yeah, the e-com space is moving a bit crazy, as we sort of said before this pod.
Yeah. And in terms of the two then, how do you split time? Like if you had to pick one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess kind of two questions. Like
it is difficult. I'm constantly...
That was the problem I had in 2020 when I was running two brands. I was
there's
like,
no right
I need
answer.
to pick one.
There's no right answer which you learn. But my current technique, as of about a week ago, is to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday on one brand, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday on the other. And that doesn't always work, and particularly like with the LS Personal Shopper, I've got like a good client list who are like fucking like calling me now and all sorts, like having random requests for like birthdays and all that jazz. But I've been lucky that my main focus is just trying to build systems, so I've got a team who can handle most of it. So we've got 5 employees, excluding myself, in the personal shopping business. 2 of them full-time salesmen, 1 who's basically just sourcing in, doing like logistics, 1 packing, and then 1 more of like the e-com, making sure the website's all up to date and that sort of stuff. So it is, I think the key is just building the system so you can just focus on the top level stuff, but it takes a bit of time to get there. But it is a nightmare. It's not the right thing to do, in my opinion, but we all end up here doing it.
Yeah. And how about the jewelry stuff in terms of team size? Is that just your girlfriend mainly?
Yeah, it's just my girlfriend. But the best thing about it is that we can just, we've got like teams, like we've got full-time customer service, but they're obviously not in the UK. We've got like contracts with email marketers, so we outsource that. We basically outsource everything. We've got a really good agency for the ads. We've got like a videographer who basically does a shoot every month, a photographer, all that crap. So I'm really keen not to start building a team with that, because I think you can easily go down the route where you just go like hell for leather, reinvest, like get a fancy office, and just start hiring left, right and centre. But I think we're trying to keep things slim, because I think you can operate well on that route. Yeah. But you might have had similar success, but I've seen people scale to big levels just doing that. So I think 100%. I've definitely got a bit of room to grow. Yeah,
I think shit's changed now. It's like you don't need an office and PAY employees and all that overheads necessarily. There's probably a time and place for that. But
and I think when you're on that recruiting pool, like the person who runs our ads is in Portugal and like lives in the countryside, and it's like when you're just recruiting in such a small bubble, even though we think London's such a big place, you're not. You want to be recruiting worldwide, finding the best talent, finding the people who actually like can do the best job. And also London's expensive, you have to pay well. Paying someone in Portugal is a bit cheaper, let alone if you go down the old Asia route.
Philippines. The Philippines customer service.
Philippines is the one. I had a funny story. We with the personal shopping business, it was about November, and we knew we'd be busy, but we didn't know how busy. And then orders started like running in, and we were like, fuck, like we're doing good here. But then we were like, I'm not sure we can handle it. And one of the boys, we're all just sort of jumping in on the old customer service, but it starts getting messy. Like Zendesk was not in sight, and if it was like, it was looking like an absolute war field. So we like, right, getting on. We found an agency to outsource it. But I say it's funny. We learned lessons from it, but we basically outsourced a lot of the customer service, but it was just carnage, because this bloke sold us the dream, and it was just like, he was basically winging it. Like But I'm sure there's been a lot far worse that you've probably got experiences like this whole, the customer service game is like,
I had like 35 people in the Philippines at one point.
35?
Yeah, and that's when shit was hitting the fan.
But you don't,
I was like, fucking hell.
But you don't know, like, you're sort of just leaving them to it.
Yeah, it was
like,
through an agency.
Yeah,
so like,
exactly.
it was an American agency.
I was in the same boat.
But Philippine staff.
Yeah, because when they say like, oh, each
here?
person can reply to X amount of emails in a day, and I go, hang on a minute, I can probably do more than that.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah, so it's like, so I'm being ripped off somewhere along the lines, but yeah, look, lessons were learned, which we're trying to put in place for this year, basically, so we can scale.
Yeah, for sure. So the personal shopping stuff then, because is that competitive? I feel like
it is. The market's come crazy saturated.
The one account I used to see was that Undivided.
Yeah,
originally.
Undivided.
I mean, I'm not massive in this space. I don't follow it that much.
Yeah, So they were sort of one of the originals. Them and another page called Creps Locker. They basically caught that. You know, there's in like every field, there's a few people who caught that initial wave of like Instagram growth.
Yeah.
And they sort of set the level, and then the market has become, it is extremely saturated now, but where we sort of fall in is that most of the people...
Yo fellas, quick one. First bit of promo for the pod. You may or may not have heard, I released a fucking ecom course a few months ago. Basically spent like 6 months making it because I was in between businesses, as you probably know if you follow my shit. I must say, 12 hours long, it's fucking quality content. I was going to drop it at like 1,500 quid with some bullshit guru-y webinar and all that rubbish, but as you know, it's not my main thing. I'm working on a new brand right now, very, very fucking much in the trenches, which is why I think it's actually a better course than everything else out there, because it's built on real experience of my brands in the past and my current one. I think it's super, super valuable. If you're interested in ecom, you're already in ecom and you want it to get into ecom, 0 to 1, starting a brand from scratch, then definitely worth investing in. Link is in the bio of this video, or podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever the fuck you're listening or watching, and enjoy the rest of the pod.
I think it's important with this sort of business that we're all selling the same product. So the consumer, if you just want to be the cheapest, then fair enough, be the cheapest, but your margins are just going to get absolutely hammered. So what you need to think about is what can we do which our competitors can't? So how can we make the consumer want to buy from us? And a lot of the people who sell this stuff are just like who I was, like the 16, 17-year-old, like jumping on the tube who gives you your shoes in like a JD bag. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas we're trying to fall into that level of like more professional, like the packaging's quite high level, so it feels like more of an experience. You're going to get hit with emails. You're going to hopefully buy again. We're going to try run it like a proper business, and that's why we've sort of had that success, because everyone's sort of just dealing with these just young guys who are just trying to just shot and make like 50 quid here and there. Whereas they would rather just be online, pay via Klarna, buy, it will come in like the next day, and they've got a bit more of a seamless experience, even if it does come at a bit more of a price. But look, in whatever you do, there's different markets, and you just sort of have to pick your market and go at it. Yeah,
and did this start because you were just like personally a massive designer clothing?
Not even massively. All like,
or was it more just an observation? Like,
it was. I was basically into trainers, and as I was growing up,
there's me, my fucking toes out, my own clipped toenails. I really should have dressed better for this one.
No, I was sort of into trainers, but it was that like, I've always been interested in business and interested in making money. From a young age, and I don't care about the money's just the value or a determinant of like how well is something doing, you know, like probably a lot of people, you know, not really doing it for the money anymore. It's just a gauge on how successful they are. So I was always interested in that, and then as I was going like through the like 15, 16, 17, it was like, right, do I either like want to be working on like labouring, which I did for like 6 months, or do I want to, I'd much rather go out and try buy and flip and sell and, do you know what I mean, wangle deals. So I sort of found trainers as a bit of a platform to do that. And like I used to like sleep outside like Nike Town and stuff like that to go get a shoe to like flip it for like 60 quid. But in my head it would be like, mate, I just made 60 quid, or I could have like worked in bloody McDonald's or something. So that's just sort of how my head processed it. And then it was only sort of, like I said, where I sort of started that website, not really thinking anything of it. that it was the first thing where I really thought, right, if I'm just going to go all in on this, and luckily it worked. But yeah, like I said, I've had a lot of businesses which haven't worked, but I think it's, do you know what I mean, the biggest failure, in my opinion, is someone who doesn't try anything. So
yeah, so that's what I was saying. And I went on the podcast, 44 podcasts. I think I put it out as a bonus episode now, but yeah, I was saying that. So true.
Yeah, you just can't be scared of failure. But you go through that period where you're thinking, like, am I a bit delusional? Like nothing really.
Probably have to be a little bit.
Yeah, I think you have to be. Nothing seems to be working that well, and everyone's not laughing at you is the wrong word, but like I'm fortunate now that the business does very well. Like my life has changed, all this jazz. But I've had like close family, close friends who, when it was like coming up, when I told them I was leaving this like well-paid job in the city, and I remember one instance, and someone like laughed in my face, and then was like, "So what? You're going to sell trainers the rest of your life?" And it's like, like now they're a bit like, "Oh, you're right. How are you?" Do you know, sort of thing. So I think everyone does just sort of. Not everyone's going to understand your vision and where you see things, but fortunately, I think I'm very much a believer that if you sort of go all in on something and don't really stop until you make it happen, a bit like with your new project, if you just go like tunnel vision, like
it's just like if you don't give up, you won't lose. Basically,
yeah, exactly.
But it's a lot harder to never give up. You know, like.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit like if we this is the example I give, but if we said here, like we had a gun against the head and said, right, you guys have got to get together and you need to start a brand selling bloody toilet seats. Yeah. Like we could probably do it. 100%. Do you know what I mean? I think in a lifetime we could probably build the best bloody toilet seat the world's ever seen. But it's just a case of putting your mind like on it and sort of not stopping until you get there.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's just one of the many things I've learned sort of on this crazy business journey. But yeah, constantly.
Yeah, it's interesting. You actually went into like the corporate world first.
Mate, it's crazy.
So you had businesses.
Have you ever been there?
No. I've done work experience.
You've been in
when I was like 19.
like a desk job.
I wore a suit in Mayfair when I was 19 for 6 months, which I spoke about before. But yeah, fuck.
Yeah, mate.
Was that like in the city?
Yeah, that was in the city, and I remember. Like I learned a lot of very good things, and a lot of the things I've tried to implement in business, because I've sort of been I am now in the level of where you have to employ, and it's not a case of like not everyone's like just that entrepreneur and like can just crack on with stuff and will work late at night and think about things 24/7 like obsessive. A lot of the people who you might have to employ aren't going to have the same vision and the same goals, but if we're all the same, then it'd be a crazy old world. So
yeah.
But I remember just being at my desk once, and I was like, right. Just going to go like fancied a bit of air. It's like 11 o'clock, just fancy going on a walk. And you get up to go to that. It's like, well, where are you going? Or like, where have you been? And I just felt like saying like, do you know what I mean? You might as well get a metal chain and put it to my leg, because there's just like an invisible one when you're like making those comments. Yeah. So it is like, I think it is just sort of like a crazy, it is a crazy world. And it's not to slate it, because it is the right thing for a lot of people. But I think for me, it was just like, it was a tough, well, I don't know, I think it was like 8 months. But yeah. And I think it's that society's pressure sort of just telling you, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And you can earn a shed ton of cash out of it, but I'd rather make half the money and have freedom, innit?
100%.
Yeah, that's what it.
Like, how big was the business then when you quit? Was it like, did you wait until it was replacing the income?
I was basically making the same. I was making the same money from the business as my job, which was just like a good few £1,000 a month, which I know is a lot of money, but it was still a risk, because you're not just giving away. You're giving away your sort of career. But what I did is I've tried to think quite logically, and I remember everyone was going like, well, what are you going to do when your business fails, and all this like negative bullshit. And well, I was like, well, I'll just go back to a job. And they were like, how do you know there's going to be a job when you finish? So I just went to my boss and I was like, right, I'm not going to be here because I'm going to quit. Yeah. But theoretically, if I came back in a year's time, would you offer me a job? And they were like, yeah. I was like, well, fucking it's problem solved.
It's an asymmetric bet then, really,
yeah. It's like, well, I've got to, it's like, you know what I mean? I've gone onto the bookies and I've got a free bet. Like, you're going to use it. So sort of took the free bet and then went all in. And then luckily everything boomed. Obviously, coronavirus did do the business wonders. as damaging as it was for other businesses. But yeah, luckily the bet
I believe
paid
it's
off.
been 2 years actually. Fucking hell.
Mate, it's fucked.
Like the past 2 years,
It's been a blur.
I overthink this so much. Like we're just like looking back at like how quick time's gone and like things that have changed or whatever. It's actually mad. Like particularly the past 2 years. Like 2020, I think everyone thought that, you know, this surely COVID's done. And then 2021, fucking hell, we're in 2022. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I mean,
mate,
like
it has been a crazy time, but I think hopefully we're at the tail end.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you actually start, like sales wise then? Was it purely organic? Or was
Yeah,
there, like,
so it was
a proper
only, I
strategy?
basically only introduced the website in November 2020. So prior to that, it was basically just hustling through Instagram DMs, which is, the business is actually really quite simple, and I think people maybe in the industry complicate it. But basically, what you're doing is you're selling a product people want. So that's, do you know what I mean? We don't have to market the latest shoes like Nike and all the other brands do that for us. So that's got a big tick. We just sort of need to make it look cool. So you basically need to just drive traffic, and then you just need to try convert the traffic. So we were basically just trying to grow the page, getting people to view it on Instagram. They were inquiring, and then it's just about the conversion. But I think a lot of it for me is, it's a high value good. So maybe like average order value for us is over £400, just a fraction over. So people want to deal with someone they feel comfortable with. So it's like getting their number, like becoming friends with them. And I do like legitimately, probably a bit like you, like a lot of the people I speak with on a daily basis, because they can afford the products I sell, or we sell a lot of, they're normally hugely successful in their field. So I'm lucky enough that a lot of the people I sell to have almost become, or they are friends. So I've built some really like good relationships off the back of it. But yeah, we basically just started there, and then the website sort of added a new dynamic. And it was only over lockdown where I was like, right, what's this Facebook ads business all about? Like everyone was just hammering on. Obviously everyone had loads of time. So I was like, right, this week, try to set myself a little weekly goal. I'm just going to watch an hour on whatever, any Facebook ad video a day. So I just got learning. Eventually just started pumping some money. And then at the time, none of my competition, it was actually like, no Fear of God Essentials, it's got like the big essentials here. Yeah, no one else was really running ads on them. And I was like, right, let's just see what this ads business, right? Just ran like the most simple carousel ad. And it basically had like, it looked so shit, but it had Trustpilot in the bottom left corner, and then the ClearPay Klarna top right.
Classic
like, absolute classic. And it was like Fear of God Essentials in stock now, blah, blah. But I was running it and it was getting like a £5 cost CPA. So cost for acquisition.
Hell, really? Jesus Christ.
Because everyone, it was lockdown. Everyone wanted these hoodies, and there's no competition. So then just started hammering at that, scaling that. I was like, mate, this ecom business is an absolute piece of piss. Then obviously the whole market sort of caught on, and we obviously had a bit of like logistics trying to get orders out the door, but I sort of saw the capability of it then. It sort of then tinkered off. At the same time, I was trying to build like what I call the private side of the business, which is like where we're dealing with the high net worth, the people who are buying more regularly. Put in place a couple like salespeople. They're effectively like they've got a client list, they're sending out broadcasts of the latest stuff, they're making sure their clients are like, if they say, oh, I'm going on holiday next week, we'll put like outfits together, they'll buy whatever they need for their holiday. So it's sort of been trying to grow the two together, because you need both as much as the other. But the e-com side is it's good, but the trouble we have is a lot of the because it's a high value good, like the problem with all e-com is scaling's difficult, which like your margins are tight and you have to invest a lot into stock. And if you're selling a product which only costs you a few pounds, it's very different to if like a shoe might cost us £300, £400, £500. So stocking a lot of it becomes difficult. So
why would, and this might be a stupid question, but like why would someone come to you rather than just going to the brand and paying stock?
Well, most
is
of
it availability or what?
Yeah, so most of it, if it's like a Nike trainer, it's obviously just sold out. It goes onto the secondary market. Nike are just like pumping it at the minute. They're trying to build their brand. So like any Jordans or stuff like that, it's just Dunks. they're just selling out instantly. So then they have no choice but to buy it from the secondary market.
Yeah.
The designer stuff, often it's a fraction cheaper through us, but people want like a one-stop shop. So even the person who buys like the Louis Vuitton hoodie also wants the Dior trainers and also wants the Amiri jeans. But they don't want to have to sort of, first of all, like I think going to shops like the high street, whilst if it's still an experience, people still look like, I know firsthand people don't want to do it. Yeah, a lot of effort, like driving into London, all that jazz. So people they just want it sorted, and like they might have a contact at Dior, and they might have a contact, but they don't want to have to deal with like so many different people. They just want to go. They don't want to have to drive into London, get there for them to say, "Oh, sorry, sir, it's sold out."
Yeah.
And say, "Oh, when can you get it?" It's like, "Oh, we don't know." They just want someone to basically take that away from
paying for the ease.
Yeah, it's just convenience. That's all like what business is. A lot of that's this service-based business. It's just convenience. So I think that's sort of where we fall, and there is huge demand for the goods we sell. So we basically just need to hopefully be the best at supplying it.
So how does it split then between like that, like client side? And
Yeah, at the minute, it's over Christmas, the e-com side went like fucking nuts. We're selling a lot of PlayStations, but we basically were just hammering. We were spending like 2K a day on Google Ads. Yeah. So we were just top of Google Ads, and PlayStations, there was like a massive shortage. We managed to
How do you even get the stock though, if there's a shortage?
Mate.
I mean, I literally don't know, so I'm asking.
Right, I can't reveal all the tricks, but basically what happens is there's these kids who do like botting. So at least with the PlayStations, like John Lewis were releasing them, Argos were releasing them, all these sort of places. It's not like Nike were releasing them, but not because Nike set up things against bots, so they can't happen. But bots, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically someone's created a software, so as soon as something goes live, they can basically buy it. A lot of the time, they can even set up the bot so it can be bought before it's even live on the website, because it has to be backloaded, like all this crazy stuff. But there's things called cook groups, which are just, it's a bit out of my remit, but obviously I know people who do it. But people were basically exploiting these websites like John Lewis, Argos, all that jazz, because they didn't really have anything in place. Like John Lewis, like they're never worried about like a kettle selling out instantly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the
Gaggia kettle drops.
Yeah, exactly. So they weren't that worried. Well, they didn't have anything in place. So people were basically being able to buy like hundreds. They were going on the secondary market, and then we could pick a lot of them up. Off them. It was actually at the point where we were the only, we basically dominated the market, because we were the only buyer at bulk level. So say if someone had 100, they would never normally want to have 100 because they wouldn't be able to like have the cash flow to deal with it. But we were just buying, we were selling we sold like 2,000 in 6 weeks. So we did do a lot of them, but we were like the only buyer in the market, and we would have people like, we've got a warehouse, and we'd have people like turn up, and we'd be like, mate, have we already bought these? Like, we paid for them. And he was like, oh, no, my friend just told me you're buying loads. And they'd have like a van full of like 40 of them. And we'd be like, how wicked, yeah. But yeah, luckily, like, I know we'll get hate because people are like, oh, people should just let them have for the people. But it's just sort of the way the market works. It's supply and demand at the end of the day. It's a free market we live in. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we did have obviously a bit of hate saying, why have you charged so much for a PlayStation? You're ripping off my son and all that.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
But most of it was positive. Like, we had so many obviously happy customers who've been buying from us again and again that we managed to get them one. So that's the main thing.
Okay, yeah. So I'm learning a lot about this industry for sure. In terms of like the whole, because I feel like one of the accounts I first saw actually was it a guy called Yeller?
Yeah.
Is that a competition or what?
Yeah. Mate, the guy, I don't know him personally.
He's like anonymous, right?
Yeah, he's anonymous, but he's a genius, absolute marketing genius. He owns that clothing brand called
Yellow World.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Which have done like amazingly well, and I think they're probably only a few years old. Yeah. But yeah, he did sort of start this whole thing, because at the time it was like, well, why are these guys selling stuff which you can just buy in the shops? Yeah. But then the whole market sort of grew off the back of it. But I've even spoken to people in the US, in Europe, but there's not a huge, here there's obviously all these like loads of personal shoppers, everyone has like a person who sorts them out all their stuff, but it's not the same in any other, well, it's a bit amongst Europe, but in the US it's definitely not that way. But I think just at least in the UK, that the culture for designer clothes is immense. Like,
yeah, I've noticed that.
Mate, it's mad now. Like, it's almost like I can't slate it because it's stuff I sell and wear.
Yeah.
But like a pair of shoes for £1,000 is normal. Like it's absolutely normal for now. Like whereas maybe even 2-3 years ago it was like at the £400 price mark, and then it went up to 600, 700, and these brands are just pushing it. And you know there's someone like at the back of it going like, what the hell is going on here?
All these brands colluding the market just to raise the prices.
The market's quite interesting because when you think about it, the more expensive something is, the less people can afford it. So then the more, so then almost the people who can afford it want it even more, because they're thinking like, mate, if I've got that, he'll know that I can afford that. So then it's like, I actually really fucking want that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like this whole thing, like who can have the most expensive watch? Like, oh, he's wearing a Rolex. It's like, oh mate, he's got an RM on. Do you know what I mean? Then everyone just starting.
And then he's got
sooner or later his watch is worth like 5 million quid.
Yeah.
And it's like,
then he's got a Jacob custom something.
Yeah. And it's just like,
do you think that comes from like Instagram culture and just like Love Island culture?
I think it must, and I think people look at it like, well, if you haven't got this stuff, you're not successful. But I've had like, where I wear a lot of the designer stuff, like I've had conversations with people who are like far more elite than me, like in terms of the business world, like miles above. And I feel like a right fucking idiot because I'm there dressed like head to toe in all this gear, and they're just in like they're like standard stuff, probably thinking like, what the fuck is this geezer doing, like wasting all this money. So there are like pros and cons, but I always say to people, look, there's a lot worse things you can spend your money on, and if it makes you feel good, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
But I've seen a lot of people say, oh, what a waste of money, but
I kind of say that.
Yeah, I know you say that.
Funny.
But some of the people we sell to, most of the people, like this isn't even a touch of their wealth. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even touch the size.
That's the thing actually, because I was going to ask, like, I mean, maybe it's different with your clients, but like broadly speaking, if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say most people that wear designer clothing don't have money.
Yeah,
like
I think,
just as a countrywide thing.
I think there
I
is
look at
that.
someone head to toe in LV, I think they're probably, it was all on credit cards.
Yeah, you might be right.
But it probably depends where it is. If it's like central London.
I don't know. Maybe, in all honesty, I would disagree just on base of everything I've learned. Like some of the people who do buy do buy consistently, like whatever they do, like they're fucking loaded. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't even like. Do you know what I mean? Spending like 5-10K doesn't like. Do you know what I mean? It's not even days work. Do you know what I mean? It's like me, the average person.
What sort of clients do you get, generally speaking, that would spend the most?
Yeah, just all sorts. In all honesty, I always say to people, it's not the people always think, oh, so how much did he spend talking about like footballers and stuff? But what you got to remember is those footballers, they are like, they're elite level sportsmen. A lot of them are really committed to the field. They're not going to like Libertine every single night. Whilst they might go like every now and then. They're not hammering the nights out. They're not like doing all this. They're normally probably just in like a night tracksuit. Whilst they might have nice stuff when they go on holiday, but yeah, there's all sorts of. We have people who are just like businessmen, own their own whatever. Even like just anyone who's sort of done well. A lot of young successful people. I've got a really good relationship with a lot of watch dealers, and for them, they're selling to like the rappers, they're selling to the every people. They sort of need to be wearing this stuff.
Yeah,
and I think even like footballers, like a lot of them now, they are like celebrities. Like it's not like the Alan Shearer days are a bit over, like where it's just like, mate, he's just going to go on and just boot wherever he can, try to bang loads of goals. Like now it's like, who's got the most followers? Like, because then they're getting better. Yeah, they're getting better contract deals, and they're thinking like, right, after my career, it's like the David Beckham, I suppose, was the first one who sort of did it, where he was
bigger than football.
Yeah, he's bigger than football. Like I don't know the stats. I've never even looked at it, but if you looked at his career earnings versus what he earns out, I don't even know, but I think FIFA paid him like fucking tens of millions of his face on that in like 2020 or 2021, wherever it was. But his earnings would be fucking crazy. But he built himself to be this like into his fashion.
Personal brand and shit.
His personal brand's crazy. So I think a lot of it's being recognised now that if you are like Mbappe, people like that, they want to look good all the time. Every time they want the latest stuff. So they are investing basically in themselves. Like the cost of having those new clothes, like wearing the new LV collection, is like fucking minor.
Yeah, very true.
And I know that's the top of the scale, but there is lower levels to it. And people always like, if someone looks like the absolute part 24/7, like a brand's going to want to sponsor them. So it's an interesting way of looking at it. But then likewise, there's people who just go out to clubs and want to wear the latest Louis Vuitton jacket. But yeah, there's a real mixture.
Yeah, legit. Have you got an example of like what's the most someone's ever spent with you?
Yeah, excluding.
It must get mad. Some of the order values.
Yeah, it's like I remember when I got my first order, and it was like, I think it was about big order. It was like 8K. I was like, Jesus Christ! And it was basically a guy, and he just wanted every Yeezy. But like, I had someone call me. He won't mind me saying this, but there's basically a shoe, like an off-white Dunk. They're like between like £500 and £700 a pair, but Nike basically released 50 pairs. They're all slightly different. They're all pretty much the same apart from a few. They've got different coloured laces. But this guy was like, I want every pair. And it's like, mate, you sure? Like, do you know what I mean? You've only got 2 feet. And he's like, no, I want every pair. So they're like 500 quid a pair. So that'd be like 25K's worth of shoes. But it's just like, yeah, minor. So they're...
How do people pay for that? Because like people that don't do ecom might not understand like the relevance of that. Because for example, if someone puts that on card, could they just like charge that back and then you have issues?
No, we do have to. I've actually
order values like that. I often wonder that when someone buys like a Richard Mille on a card.
We'll just invoice and they'll just send a straight back transfer.
To avoid that.
Yeah.
Would you do like card payment on that sort of shit?
Not at that level, no. And even at that level, we'll take like ID and stuff like that. But you do need to be fucking careful. Like unfortunately, I've been stung. Like, when was it? It was at basically Bitcoin was at £13,000 at the time. And someone, so however long ago was that, 1.5 to 2 years ago, someone was buying some stuff off me, claimed to pay Bitcoin. I spoke to someone, blah, blah, blah. I was like young, naive. I sold him loads of stuff. Built a relationship with him, blah, blah, blah. Turned up, spent 13K Bitcoin, in my Coinbase wallet. Look, the next day it's not there. I'm like, fucking hell, here we go. It's basically some chargeback they basically figured called a double spend. You can't do it anymore, and it actually recently got eliminated off the platform. But this fucking prick who's out there, hopefully watching this,
and you got
he basically did a double spend. Came to our office, took all the stuff. Best mate, Spud, like, money's with you. It was basically a loophole on the Coinbase network to make it look like you'd receive your money. But we get targeted. We always have people try stuff on like 24/7, and like we're fortunate enough that we don't need. If there's any element of like risk or slyness, we just can swerve it. But like we get targeted heavy. Like our online SagePay account, and obviously where people pay via card, if you don't know, just gets hammered.
You use SagePay? Fucking hell, so that's like, is that like
no,
a
but
super
Stripe do not like what we do. Stripe, no, Stripe not having it.
Because most people would use a Shopify payment, Stripe, whatever.
Well they don't, neither of those let you do what we do on their platform, because it's like we don't have the right to sell Nike and all that stuff. We're not an authorized reseller. Interesting. Yeah, so we have to go down the SagePay route, where definitely hammers a bit of conversion, because you have to go through that.
I know your stock then, is that like 3PO? I know we'll get onto the jewelry stuff in a minute.
Yeah, our stock is, we've got a warehouse where we keep most of our stock. But how it basically works is we typically try to increase it about 50-60% of orders we have in physical stock, so we can get to the customer the next day. But the remaining 40% are either sourced in, but we basically know someone who's got it already. So we have a good network of people who've got maybe similar stock levels, so like large amounts of stock, who are like holding trainers. And then we can basically get it in from them and sort of middleman the deal. But the thing with trainers is, whilst there's a lot of downside, say like a Jordan comes out, today it might be £200 on the market, but in a year's time, it's not like the watch market where secondhand is still just like a normal thing. Like secondhand pair of shoes, the price just absolutely plummets. So in a year's time, there's a lot less pairs in the market. If demand's still the same, it's still in fashion, the price is just, they've gone from 200 to 400. So actually holding them from the year isn't actually the end of the world. So it's quite good. It's like most things, like stock price actually depreciates. In this, stock price can actually appreciate if you're clever. And I know people who make a living, like a good living, who've got like a few million quid. They'll basically just buy loads of shoes, just sit on them for like 6 months, and they'll make like 20-30% of the money. But it's good money if you're doing it over a few hundred grand.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept,
mate. I've had crazy ideas with it.
Yo fellas, quick one. You may or may not have noticed there's been a bit of merch, so to speak, in recent episodes. We've got two different things. We've got some of the retro style OG neon beach posters that I designed like 4 years ago. You may have seen it on my Instagram. And then we've got some of the best selling OG viral style neon signs that basically did start that entire craze about 2 years ago now. So yeah, if you want to add something to your home office, your living room, just anywhere sick basically that you want to add that extra thing to and support the channel, then you can check that out. Link is in the bio, midnight.co/shop. And yeah, just an aesthetic item to complement the process, I suppose. Cheers for watching and enjoy the rest of the pod.
But the trouble is like storage. Like it's probably a bit like wine when you get onto a big level. You need to have like a fucking massive cellar. Do you know what I mean? It can't just be out of a little random storage unit or anything like that. So yeah, but no, it is an interesting concept.
If you had to pick either the like personal shopping, like more client side, or the e-com side, and run with it, which one would you pick and why?
It's got to be e-com, to be honest, just because of the scalability. The personal shopping side is brilliant, and it sort of got me where I am today. But it's difficult because there's a lot of moving parts. You're constantly on your phone, like you can't switch off. I think like where I used to be.
Your WhatsApp must be fucked.
Oh mate, it's a mess. I've got another phone which has got like 6 contacts, like, and it just past like 8 o'clock, I just turn off that phone, and I'm on my one where I know no one's going to text me. If it goes, I'm like, at least I know who it is. But yeah, it is a mess. But yeah, it'd have to be the e-com side just because of the scalability. But look, there's pros and cons. I think I'm sort of past the point now where I'm like, oh mate, just made another 200 quid, and it's like, oh boom, and it's like quick fire. It's like on the phone to him doing the deal. Like I used to absolutely buzz off it, but now it's sort of like fatigued down where I'm getting into the more e-com, and it's more like, do you know what I mean? It can be like a quiet Sunday. You haven't done too much work, but your Shopify is absolutely flying. So I think that's got to be it, just because of the scalability. And I'm not in a place where I want to just keep everything where it is and just float along. I'm trying to actively grow.
Yeah, and what do you think the biggest challenge is to scale e-com? Because you're obviously doing a decent scale.
Yeah, like, for me it was like we had a big issue, a cash flow issue, like probably where we were scaling over Christmas. Like people don't understand that. Like if you're doing like £1 million turnover a month, like that money's got to go through somewhere. Do you know what I mean? It's got to come out of your bank account for the product. Obviously there's a margin on it, basically bought, but if your margin's 10%, you've just moved a shit ton of money. So I think my ego, I don't know whether it's my ego, but I don't want to seek investment just because I like the control, I like the way I run the business. You hear horror stories, but I suppose there's also a lot of positive stories. But it's probably just the cash flow side of things, to be honest. But I've got it this far, and I feel like if you just continuously add, but obviously like you've probably been, there's times when you feel like, do you know what I mean? Like you've got fucking shit ton of money tied up in stock. I've had like multi 6 figures tied up in fucking payment processes before. Mate, just put reserves on. I'm having, because you're scaling. Well, we had problems with the banks in December. Not that we did anything wrong, basically just because of like activity just went absolutely through the roof.
Yeah, and they're like, tell us XYZ.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then they just decide to hold your money, and then all this stuff. So I think that is the main issue, well, the main hurdle. But I don't think it's. I don't know. What's your opinion on seeking investment and all that?
Well, I've done it for this new one.
I suppose you've gone down that. I suppose it relieves. It relieves. It wasn't pressure. I suppose
it definitely wasn't for money. That's not the main reason. Though. Yeah, it was for guidance. I mean, I spoke about it in more depth on I think 2 episodes that'll have gone out by now.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was really for stress sharing, guidance, and experience, and really to give it more of a plan for where I want to take it.
Yeah,
because it was more about the people that were coming on rather than the money.
Yeah, and that's important.
And that's also why I took investment rather than like a loan or, you know, revenue.
Yeah, because you could have got the money easily, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I think ultimately. So.
Yeah, no, I think that is important. I suppose that comes to like building like an A team, like people who are on the same vision, people who want to take it in the same path, because you can't. Like I've learned, you can't get far on your own. Like,
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, you try like,
Sure.
I'm just going to hammer this. I'm going to figure out what this email marketing jazz is all about. It'd be a piece of piss. And suddenly you're like getting 0 click-throughs and you're like losing subscribers. So I think I listened to something interesting the other day, a while ago, which I've tried to like implement. And basically this business shit is just about, once you get to a level, like once you've got a model which works, you've got people who want your product, it's just about a recruitment process.
Yeah.
So if you can hire like the best in each field, do you know what I mean? Let them get on. You don't really need to know what's going on. But if you can hire the best in each field, obviously just let them sort of flourish with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm trying to adopt that. But yeah, teams, mate, it's so important. More important.
Do you think having your own warehouse over like a 3PL, because I know you do for the other brand, is that like, because I've never done that. I've always outsourced. I thought like, why do I want to have my own warehouse? How can I scale as quick, etc.
Yeah. So I would put it in a 3PL if we could, but because of the stock turnover is so fast, like the checking in, the barcoding would absolutely be like a logistic nightmare. Yeah. Because there might be a new shoe release. We wouldn't have time to like check it into a 3PL, them to go like, it's here.
Yeah,
and where it's a high value good, I always worry like, do you know what I mean? Suddenly your shoe just goes missing. It's like, sorry, you get a fucking email from someone saying, this has been stolen.
£2 conversation from James.
Yeah, exactly. So I would if I could, but unfortunately we can't. But we had that same thing. As you asked, like, what was the difficulty over Christmas? We had like, Matt was calling up. If you're on my phone, but you probably got a call over Christmas, being like, "Hi mate, I know you've been working like in a job a few years, but I don't suppose you got like a spare hand, like because we basically couldn't get enough people to package orders."
Really?
Yeah, but not in like a. We were doing maybe, let's say, 250 orders leaving a day. But that actually takes a fuck ton of time. Like, if you've ever been to a 3PL, like they've got a legit operation. Like our operation hopefully was good, but it was like not as organised as what they're doing. So we were basically like all just figuring it out, all jumping on board. But part of the growth, I suppose, part of the fun of it.
How big do you want to make it then? Like, because obviously everyone talks about scale, but then it's not always like the way, because there's a lot of things that come with scaling more. Like,
and I've learned that
from where you are
I've
now.
learned that recently.
Where would you want to take it relative?
Yeah, I've learned that recently, that scaling, you've got to be fully committed, and your margins will, in my opinion, get like dampened.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And like we operate off a small margin already, like month on month. Well, it's only about 13% take home, so it's small.
Still pretty good for ecom.
Yeah, it is good. I'm pleased with it, but it's tight because if you drop a few percent, you suddenly could be gone. Like we start employing like mad. But yeah, I think look, I'm extremely ambitious, and I feel like growth is just part of like, I feel like as I'm hopefully developing, the business will develop, and that's sort of like showing my. Like the month or the year where I'm not growing at all and profits are the same and revenues the same is sort of like, that would just drive me fucking crazy. Yeah. But I think it's sort of a bit like I think we spoke before. Like it's not about the money, all this jazz. It's not about. It's just like how you monitor your success. But yeah, I think it is. I'd love to scale it and keep pushing it further. But unfortunately, I feel like the market, at least in the trainers, I think it will continue to develop and change. And what I don't like about the market, which is why I'm sort of seeking other opportunities, is that a lot of it is sort of out of our control. So I can't predict trends. There always will be a trend, but I'm not producing a product I'm in control of. So it's harder to, like, there could be a few months where there's like been no good releases and our profits are just down. So it's sort of out of our control. Whereas at least if you're running your own brand, where you're making your own product, at least you can sort of like take full accountability for it. But yeah, I think I see there is growth, but I think the scale of growth cannot be as quick as if you were just running like a simple ecom brand. Yeah, for sure. So many things I want to go on to, but on the jewelry brand, I feel like we have to cover both probably. We'll try to cover it. So, yeah, £1 million first year. That's pretty much exactly what I did with Midnight City in the first year. And fucking, I feel like jewelry's so competitive now. So mate, that's probably more impressive on your side, I think, because you've done it 2 years later. The market's competitive. You were in the male market. Were you in the male market or male. Both? Yeah. Slightly both, but 99% male. Well, 90% male. Yeah. So we're strictly female, which for anyone looking to get into the e-com space, I personally would recommend.
They just spend money when they're fucking bored, don't they?
Yeah. I think girls just spend more money than men. At least if it's me, I'm like,
online, I think.
like, yeah, 100% online. And I also feel like girls as boys are like, we look into things where girls are like, I'll just buy it and return it if I don't want it. Like the mentality's different. So we're operating the female market. We're at a fair price point. Like, say a necklace can be like 50 quid. Probably, is that a similar sort of? Yeah. So a similar fair price point, like affordable. We've basically just seen, well, we saw really good results, and the brand is scaling quick, and that is basically the plan for this year, to just try scale as quick as possible. But we're learning fast. But I think it just comes down to at least for me, the key fundamental is just having a good product.
Yeah.
And I know people overlook and they look into this marketing, whilst that is crazy important because you need people to buy it. But if you've got a good product and you've got customers returning, I think that's the key. So I think just spending time on your product development, making sure it's actually something like legit, like good. Like if you received it, you'd be like, whoa, this is fucking
Is it just
cool.
Stainless steel jewellery, I assume?
Yeah, stainless steel jewellery.
Product.
Yeah,
margins are fucking mad.
Yeah, doesn't tarnish.
Yeah.
Tarnish free. So we've got loads of arms we can play with, like waterproof, sweatproof, like finding your audience and basically just targeting them, making them feel like they need the product. But we've had like, what I also feel like is important is like, you need that emotional connection. And the business basically is called D. Louise, which is basically my girlfriend, who her mum sadly passed away in 2017 of cancer, and it's named after her, Debbie Louise. But there is the whole point of the brand. It's more than just like go buy your jewelry.
Yeah.
It's like this whole like empowering women, and it's like this. There's loads of emotional, and I won't go on, but it is just like the whole journey of how she sort of left her job, which she hated or didn't enjoy, and now is like, fuck, like I actually run my own business. Do you know what I mean? It's just like this cool thing. Like we're all here, and we all sort of just take it for granted that like we can go do what we want, but realistically, like 99% of society can't. So it's sort of just like supporting that. But yeah, the margins are good room to scale. We've started selling a lot in America recently, so looking to go in a 3PL out there Q2.
Where the sales
Americans buy more.
Is it primarily Instagram? Or
What's that?
Yeah. Is it like in terms of ads and shit?
Yeah. But
where are you spending?
Yeah, basically Facebook, Instagram, Google. We're actually doing really well on. Surprisingly, but I feel like Google's harder to like scale to a good level. That's at least what we're finding. But yeah, it's that whole thing, like getting on the customer journey. Like email marketing is crazy important, which I've only probably learned in the last 7-8 months.
That's mad. You've only been doing all this shit like 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I've been like sort of dabbling along with it, but I sort of like went all in on it. My idea was that to do well in like you could be the best at what you do, but if the industry or whatever you're doing is on the downhill cycle, you'll never do that well. Whereas I sort of saw this like, e-com's basically on the up, in my opinion.
100%.
And I think there's a huge, it's like, and that whole agency model, that's also on the up. So I thought, sort of think, if I can get in here and even do a half good job, I remember like we could do it, and like you can earn like getting to like the 10K a month profit isn't actually. I know it's not easy, it's not overnight success, but people can do it quite quick. If you actually put your mind to it and learn all the basic fundamentals, apply the right mindset, you can get there. So I think I'd sort of learned that, and then now we're just sort of learning all the lessons of scaling. But just constantly, I think what some people maybe do wrong is they spend too much time working and not enough time learning. So I do try focus to try just constantly like read, listen to podcasts.
This podcast.
This podcast in particular. If you haven't listened to every episode, you're a fucking idiot. Listen to podcasts, all that jazz. And then it's luckily all sort of clicking together.
Do you think stock management's a bitch for jewellery? Because that's one thing I used to find. I think I had like literally, it's actually quite hilarious. I think there was like 55,000 units of stock at one point, and I was only selling like 5,000 a month, and I didn't even think. I was just like, because the stock price was so, like unit cost was so low. So
you had the money.
Put it on the Amex, like we'll just stock up. But like, especially when you got a lot of SKUs, because obviously like I don't know if you have like sizing and shit, but I think at one point I had like 250 SKUs, and I was like, fucking hell, that's too many.
Yeah. No, we have
It's
that.
like 80% of the sales with like 2 SKUs.
Yeah. Mate, so, it is a problem. Like we've got lines like, just like it's something which happened last week is we bought like, it was a ring and a bracelet. We bought like 4,000 of them. We had it trademark checked, but basically, long story short is we can't sell them. But we've got like 4,000 rings and a thing, and it's like, well, I know they didn't cost a lot, but it's still like, what the fuck are we going to do with this then? Yeah. So you do have like, and whilst there being loads of different SKUs, you can't just have a website with like 3 products, even if those 3 products do just sell. So yeah, it is an issue. But you still get your head around. It's like we constantly have this debate. We've luckily like done a bit of a cash flow planning, so as long as everything goes to plan, we're okay on when you order and all that hoo-ha. But you at times you're like, this is why we went to 3PL. We were like, how much room are we taking up? Because we've got like I don't know, like 70,000 units in here, and I'm thinking like, Jesus Christ, like, do you know what I mean? Whilst they might only be, they're not hugely expensive, not crazy money per unit. It's still like a lot of money tied up. Like, it is a concern's the wrong word, but you're thinking like, I hope this, like, do you know what I mean? Hope sales can continue because we've got a huge amount of money. So it is like, I don't know, it's one of the fucking e-com horrors that predicting your sales is like extremely difficult. Like we had it over Black Friday where we sold way more than we ever thought. Then come like December, we've got most things out of stock. But it's not like, I know the clothing game takes ages to design, like, and then you've got to get it to sample and then list. Like, luckily jewelry's an easier design process. So it is a bit quicker.
Do you use TikTok?
Yeah, trying to push it.
So I've been seeing, like, I've been on Twitter, like, saying,
mate, everyone's talking about TikTok ads. Do you know what I mean? How you can make 10K a month.
I haven't done it yet, really. To like, did a little bit with Neon, but never organically. Like, there's brands I've seen that are doing like 100 grand a month organic. Not even paid.
I know it's like the new world, and I feel like that's what people always say. It's like, oh, Facebook's dead, but there's always going to be a new thing. Do you know what I mean? You have to just be.
Facebook's definitely not dead. It's just got more expensive.
You just have to be constantly learning. Like, you can never have that mindset of like, oh, I don't know anything about, like, I'm not saying like, I know it's just hammering it and all, like, everyone's bored of it, but like the whole NFT crypto space, you can't have the mindset anymore of like, I don't know anything about it, like, in case it is the next big thing. Like, you can't, do you know what I mean? Or at least pick your battles and go like, right, I'm just going to try and learn about this TikTok jazz, because some people are having some success in it. Like, we put up our first video on TikTok, was like it was like a 10-second clip of Mason Mount. In our office, we have this thing called the bin challenge, where you basically have to like boot a football into a bin, which is on the other side of the warehouse. There's of Mason Mount just like doing, for you keep up, he's doing it. Put it up, like, no editing, no sound, nothing. We got like 350k views. And we were like, mate, you couldn't get near all that on Instagram. Like, you couldn't get in a fraction. So we were like, Jesus Christ, this has to be powerful. So we've actually recently hired someone, like a freelancer who's basically just hammering our TikTok. But even then, you're getting like 10k views is like a bad video. Which you can't get it elsewhere. But it's just learning all these platforms, just trying to utilize them.
Shit with like footballers then, like Mason Mount. I was down at Chelsea the other weekend. I'm actually a Liverpool fan, but I've got a mate that has fucking season tickets, so I was corrupted. I think you were there as well.
I was there.
You got a season ticket?
Yeah.
How would you start? Obviously, like someone like him, I assume they get bombarded by, you know, potential businesses. Have you built like a relationship with people like that?
Yeah. So,
and like, how does that work?
Mason, I've been selling to him for a few years, and it's only like, I've known him, and then he broke through to the Chelsea team, and he had like a crazy debut at Stamford Bridge, and then it's all sort of like, he's sort of grown as my business has sort of grown. But yeah, like he's like the face of Chelsea now, isn't he? So he's at the point now where brands are approaching him because they want him to wear their stuff. So there is that sort of flip, but it is just like word of mouth. Like, people want someone they trust. But yeah, they all like every footballer who I've dealt with has been like an actual, like, you think they're just going to be like this absolute like arrogant, but they've actually been like really good blokes. Like, most of them, to get where they are actually really like switched on, and they like do take everything seriously. Like, people think, oh, they just mess about. Like, they're actually like on it. They're just extremely talented. So yeah, that's, word of mouth is just the main thing across there.
Do people like that pay the same price, or would they say like, I want discount because I'm promoting it? Or
no, they wouldn't. They just pay the exact same price. Yeah.
And stop chewing this shit. Do you get players that spend like ridiculous amounts?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes and no. Not like I said, they're not the biggest spenders, to be honest, because they don't have huge amount.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like footballers, like, I know people are going to slate me for saying this, but they actually like, they don't have that huge amount of time off, and in their career they are actually working a lot. Like they're basically, they're like a fucking racehorse. Do you know what I mean? They're just like constantly like they're playing like sometimes like 5 games in 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and I know it's like, oh, tough, like really tough, blah, 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 going into Trent, and I get that. But they are work bloody hard, so they don't actually have a huge amount of time off, don't go out like 24/7. Obviously there are like the Pogbas of the world, and I don't sell to him, but he would, like, I'm sure he would have it off. But yeah, the normal footballer just wants like nice stuff, wants to look nice and all that.
Yeah, definitely. How do you think your life has changed most? I'm changing the pace. Since you were stuck in a fucking office to like 2 years later.
Yeah, mate.
Obviously you had stuff before.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty drastic change.
Yeah,
in
mate.
2 years. Most people I know that like doing similar scale have either never been like corrupted by being stuck in like a corporate world.
Yeah.
Or they've done it for longer.
No, mate, my life has changed. Like, do you have these ideas that, oh mate, I just want to make that money, and I just want that bloody black Range Rover, and then like, do you know what I mean? And then you actually sort of get there, and you're like, I know it's like really typical, but like, it's maybe a bad mindset. But you're just constantly thinking like about the next thing. Like, it's like, obviously, I love it and all that, but it's not about the money. The money, like, once you get to a point where you can just sort of, I mean, eat what you want, you don't really have to think about it too much. Like, you just you get to a point where it doesn't really make a difference, but it's just like you're just trying to do something, build something bigger than yourself.
That's the thing, because
you see it like, I love like Ben Francis, and you see him on an interview, he's wearing like the same Gymshark zipper, like the thing, he's in some like Plimsolls, and you think, mate, you are the absolute one, you're worth like 800 million quid, and you're just bopping around with the same bits and bobs. So it just like, do you know what I mean? He doesn't need like a bloody Urus and all this like shit. Like, I've sort of like, I'm not saying I'm the wisest and stuff, but do you know what I mean? I don't think if I got any like crazy shit, it would make me any happier. Like, I bet if someone, hopefully in a few years' time, when you sell your business for 100 million, like, you're not just going to go on Rightmove and buy like a 50 million pound pad. Well, I might be wrong. You might.
Maybe not 50.
Yeah.
Maybe just 10.
Yeah, but then you think like, why do you need 8 bedrooms? Do you know what I mean? If it's just...
Yeah, it
like,
is true, isn't it?
It is that whole mentality is in my head at the minute, is like, mate, why do you want that? Why do you want that house of like 10 bedrooms? Well, like, that's just your ego. It's got to be your ego, isn't it?
Like a thought experiment I've had, and I've said it to a few people, it's quite interesting for anyone watching, is like, if tomorrow you woke up with whatever that number is, just 100, I'll call it 100 million quid cash in your bank.
Yeah, go on.
What would you do?
Yeah. Mate, I don't think it would.
And you might do something different for a week, but actually, what would you do for the next, hopefully, like 50, 60 years, whatever you've got left?
Yeah.
So, and then I think you should probably think about what you would do, and then actually do that.
Yeah, it's true.
And then you'll probably end up
there
figuring something out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, like everyone thinks they might do something massively different, but for me, like, I don't know. I probably just have a black badge car, and maybe live in a bigger flat, have a house as well somewhere. Like,
yeah, but you would still crack on, wouldn't you? You'd crack on with your business, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think the same things would still make me sad. There's nothing to do with money, like I was saying to you before. The same things would probably make me happy, like fucking cuddling my dog and shit.
Yeah, mate, it's true. That's what, like, I've had the exact same thought, but I have this vision of like, say if like a close friend or something just goes to you like, hi mate, my life on this earth is done, like, I've got to die, whatever, and here I've got all this money, I want to give it to you. I would actually be a bit pissed off now, because it's sort of like, you might have grown up, but I was fortunate to grow up around a lot of successful people, and they've obviously just given their kids shit ton, but it's not about like anyone can get bought a Rolex. Do you know what I mean? Anyone can get bought a nice car, bought a nice flat, but how many people can actually do it for themselves?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So it's like, do you know what I mean? Like,
that's why I was such a cunt when I started to be able to afford cars, because I never bought one when I was younger, and then it was like compensation. It was like, well, I earn this.
Yeah, but it is that feeling of
and then that becomes fleeting itself. But
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's kind of a chip on my shoulder.
It's that same thing. It's like, do you know what I mean? You know when say if you're a kid and you fucking lawn the garden or whatever, and then your parents give you a £5 and you go buy your own sweets. It's better than it feels better because you've earned it, and it is literally that on a bigger scale. So it's like I actually would be pissed off if someone just I wouldn't want to win the lottery. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I've thought about this.
But I think it would just corrupt me because I'd feel like I've been sort of given a head start, and it's like then I start thinking, right, if I had all this fucking hundreds of millions, like I don't know a single like billionaire or multi-millionaire who's got normal kids. Like I think they're all
like cunts.
Yeah, like basically, or I'm not saying all, I'm saying 80%. Yeah. So you got to gamble that your kid falls in that 20%, but it's quite hard to do it if they're like going on yachts and they're doing all this crazy stuff, and then do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't really want that. I don't know what to do with it. Just try to do something crazy, give it away or whatever. So I don't think it's about past the point. Do you know what I mean? Money's just a number at the end of the day. But it's about trying to do, well, for me, it's about trying to do something bigger. And it's just like a number to like prove itself. Like, oh, I can do that. This whole thing is like, for all of us, this business world, whatever it is, it's just a challenge. Like for me, it's like a big game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like a big game, and then you're just constantly just trying to figure it out. But it's never ending. But yeah, it's a crazy, going back to your original question, yeah, my life has changed massively, but I think it's got to the point now where it won't. I mean, I did go like, get that car, get that watch, get that, constantly buying all this shit, going and spending money, like doing all that, and then quickly you realise like, fuck, my overheads are building up now.
Yeah,
like,
I've been there last year.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, you're like, do I really need all this stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, but I think, look, if you can keep the business growing with it, then it's not the end of the world, I suppose.
Yeah. And obviously you mentioned working with your girlfriend. Yeah. And that sounds like it works for you.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
How long had you been with her before you made that?
Yeah. So I've been with her for about 4 years, and it was only like, I sort of understood the ecom space quite well, and she was basically like, hated her job, locked down, like her job was always quite social, going out, all that. She didn't really have any sort of major ambitions, but then she started like seeing what I was doing, it was going well, and she was like, oh, I just want to be, it is that term like free, you know, when you're like probably working in a job and you're like tied to like Zoom calls and everyone's talking. Like, I used to hate it. So I used to work in real estate and we'd go to like a networking event. Do you know what I mean? What a load of shit that was. And people would talk like, oh, so I just did this massive deal, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, mate, can we actually just talk about things we all care about? Because let's be realistic, you don't give a fuck about this. Like, you're just talking about it, so you hope this like guy over here will overhear it. So she was sort of thought like, oh, actually maybe I could start a business, all this sort of stuff. And I was basically like, well, what's the risk? And she was like, oh, I won't have any money. So I was like, right, if I just fund you 6 months salary, we're good to go. And then, because I did have like true belief that if we put our mind to it, we could figure it out. You'd race just outwork, outsmart your competition, and then luckily here we are. But we were talking about it before this call, for this podcast. Sorry, and it's like you can exit these brands. Obviously, you need to have good earnings, but you can get out of them easy. Like, there's a lot of buyers in the market. Yeah. So I think, or the current plan is at least, no, mate, no one even knows this shit. You get stuff out of people on podcasts, don't you?
Don't even try. It's just a natural skill. Yeah. Like, everyone feels so at ease.
Yeah. But yeah, the current plan is just to have another at least year, probably year and a half's growth, and then try exit, because then hopefully can exit for a good sum, and then we can sort of just, I don't know, like I said, just work on something else, I suppose, after that.
Would you plan to sell the jewellery business and keep the LS? Yeah.
That would be the current plan.
Yeah, for sure.
But that money needs the idea is, at least this current idea, which is constantly changing, but that business needs cash because we're stocking high value goods. So hopefully the cash I can make from that, put into this, and then scale that up. But mate, that's the current plan. Things change all the time, don't they?
Yeah. Do you think you would have had this level of success so far if you were single? Again, this is fucking therapy for me, isn't it? Because of the concept.
You know, I actually don't think I would. No. Like, excuse all the gay shit, but I've got a very good relationship with my girlfriend, and it is that like constant level of support. Like I've been through some shit recently, not even like family stuff, like business stuff, where we had like big things, like big problems, like big bad shit, and then you've got someone. It's like that with your business. You've got someone to sort of share the stress.
Yeah.
So I think that that helped, and then also like where I'm so like divulged in, like I wouldn't go on many nights. I don't even I don't know how I'd meet a girl like now, because I'm not active enough. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm shit on my phone. Like if you like, my friends will know, they'll be close friends, and I won't reply to them. It's not because they know I'm not being rude, because I'll just ring them. Like, and I always say to people, like, if you need me, just ring me. Like, I mean, I'll just ring you back. But yeah, I remember the days when you're like sliding into DMs and stuff. Like I've got friends who are like active in the game. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got the personal profile. They've got like 10K followers. They're active. But I'm not. No, I definitely wouldn't go down that route. So I don't know how to meet anyone. She'd probably just think, who's this freak?
How did you meet?
We're at university. Yeah, weirdly enough, just in like towards the very end. That whole uni's just a scam. So anyone who's
Which one was it?
I went to Reading Uni, but that
why is it a scam? I think uni's a scam.
Mate, uni as a whole, is an absolute scam for most people. Yeah, I think you learn that afterwards, that they actually just rip you off, charge you 9K, and then see you later.
Yeah, legit. Yeah,
But
fuck.
you didn't go to uni, did you?
I went uni, did 3 different courses. I dropped out twice. I never finished.
Yeah.
I went to Newcastle. But yeah.
But it is a scam.
It is a scam, yeah. It's funny you say that about being single, but do you think that's because she's a very supportive, on the same page person?
Yeah,
Because,
I think
I completely agree.
Yeah, I think she is, because I've been in toxic relationships before. Like, because this is obviously, I've been in quite a few relationships, and
I haven't, just the one that ended recently.
Just the one, we'll get onto that after.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I've been in a few sort of, as like, not my come up is the wrong word, but so even when I was like 17, 18, I was like doing like little things like hustling to making money, but it was sort of, as I look back, some people would look at it, and at least like girlfriends might look at it and find it like a bit embarrassing. And do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a bit like, you know when someone starts a YouTube, like,
yeah, legit.
and you know when and you're filming it, and like the girlfriend's a bit like, oh, what are you doing? You're embarrassing like us. But actually 2 years down the line, he's got a fucking bigger channel ever, and she's like, oh, I've always supported him since day one. Do you know what I mean? Like I had relationships like that where they're like, well, why are you doing that? Like, you're only thingy, just grow up. Like, it's not all about like, oh, do you know what I mean? And it's like, you sort of go, everyone goes on this like journey of like, where you're like, you start, well, I feel like you start reading maybe, and you're like listening to podcasts, and she sort of like, I had girlfriends who would be like negative about it, and then just be like, oh, why do you care so much about that? And then luckily got out of those relationships, and now my girlfriend now would like, it's fully supportive on everything. Obviously she grants her opinion, but it is like, yeah, she would never say, oh, I don't think you should do that, or if I started it, oh, it's just being like positive.
Yeah,
about
do you think
things.
you share like, I'll come on to the reason why I'm asking this.
Yeah, go on.
Do you think you share like the same fundamental values and beliefs?
Yeah,
and like
100%.
life vision, in terms of you're on the same page and what's important, what's not?
Yeah.
When even like money and shit, because I feel like that stuff maybe couples don't talk about. I mean, it depends what stage it's at, of course.
Yeah, mate. I think it's like, I've had a friend who actually broke up with his girlfriend not too long ago, but they were just on 2 totally different wavelengths. Like, he was super ambitious, wanted to do this, wanted to do that, and then she was like, oh, I don't want to leave wherever I live, this is all I want to do, this is what I want to achieve, and it just can't work. And it's not because they don't get on and they're not great people, but you sort of have to be tuned into the same radio station, I would assume, and you can't fight that to a degree. Yeah, so I do agree with you that you do need to be, yeah, we do share the same vision, same journey. She doesn't really like even if the business started doing millions and millions of pounds, we were talking about this the other day, like if we exited for like millions and millions, like I was like, what's that, like, what are you going to do with your chunk of money? And she was like, oh, I don't even care, just like make sure there's a few £100 in my Monzo. And it's like like, no, you do realise like you can go do whatever the fuck you want to do, but it's just like she doesn't even care about that. But whereas I'm like the really meticulous one who's have like plans and strategies, like, why we need to do this, do that. So I think we sort of complement each other in aspects, but I think the whole thing is just like don't take shit too seriously. Just support each other is obviously the main thing. Yeah, that's about it.
Do you think it's a better relationship because you met before you started making money?
Yeah. I think I would, like most people, as you sort of get into money, your life does change, but like going to nice restaurants, doing all that jazz, and it's because I actually I do stuff enjoy. Like I don't go clubs and spend stupid money, but that's not what I enjoy. Like I don't enjoy getting absolutely slaughtered, but I do enjoy like going to nice restaurants. Like actually like fucking buzz off, like looking at the menu and shit like that. Going on crazy holidays, doing all that. I love all that stuff. So I think I think meeting. She always says that. She's like, oh, I was with you before you had anything, blah, blah, blah. Like when I met her, I like had this fucking shit Polo and I was driving like halfway across London for like 50 quid on a pair of trainers. And at the time, say if I was like 19, that is a bit like that I was hustling. Do you know what I mean? Like what my business used to be is like I was the equivalent of a drug dealer, but shoes in my Polo, dropping them off like here, there and everywhere. So it is like people would look at you and there might be like, I don't know, one of her friends might have a bloody boyfriend called Albert who's just got a job at JP Morgan and you'd be like, who's this idiot? But you're like, it's like, fuck you, Albert. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, legit. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, because I said I wasn't going to say this on the podcast, but yeah, I was pissed off this week because I found out that my ex-girlfriend got a new boyfriend like 8 weeks later, which I thought was harsh.
Quick to,
yeah, just so cold, like I don't know. And then I asked her about it and she gave me like a 1-line reply on text. And I was like, that's cool, given we lived together for like a year.
Got the dog.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people deal with
things in different ways.
I mean, I've never been through a breakup, but like, and I don't think she had massively before, but yeah, I think, is that your phone? Cut that out. Yeah, like I really hope that's just a fucking... Right, I honestly think, and this is me just being super fucking honest on the podcast, I always am, I think that was more emotionally distressing for me than like the 6 months of losing like £1 million from Neon Beach was.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think that says a lot about...
Rather it was more foreign and like, oh my fuck, like I don't know how to deal with this feeling.
Yeah. Mate, I think that it is
and they are very different things, but it's a deeper...
But you might have got to the point where I sort of am... at least like business and at least money in business, like you really care about it. You probably got to the point in Neon Beach, like I've lost money like through doing stupid shit, like all these sort of stories which you like, lessons you learn in business, but they are just, as long as you learn from them and move on, but you don't give a fuck about it anymore. Whereas the relationships like that, like human relationships, it's really hard. It's deeper. Especially it's like close cut. There's like emotion, huge deep emotion. We actually realise like money, it doesn't fucking matter, does it?
I don't know, because like I did a personality test yesterday for the first time ever, and it was like so fucking true. It was like 16personalities.com.
Yeah.
And there was like a relationship section, like fucking reading that shit. I'm not like into star signs and that, but this personality
test was on the
like
absolute.
Yeah, it was just like you care too much. Like I don't know, like the other person probably comes across like they don't care as much. Like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
But I think my mentality, well, as I sort of, and the people the thing I say to friends and stuff, they're like, oh, I'm not sure. Like, at least with a girlfriend or someone, if you're not 100% sure that she's the one you want to spend the rest of your life with, bin it off.
Do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's just a matter of fact. Like, if you are not categorically like, boom, done. Like, if someone said, gun to your head, tell me, predict the future, I will know what the future is. What's the answer, yes or no? If you think it's a no, bin off. And I think, because otherwise you just ultimately might get divorced or whatever. Unless, like, I'm lucky that I'm in the position where, like, I'm sure, like, I don't have any sort of desire to, like, take out other girls, all this sort of crap. Whereas previously I was, like, in relationships and maybe did. So...
Yeah, I think the problem with, like, when breakups end... I mean, fucking, this is literally just become a fucking breakup podcast, but because I know Dons can relate watching it, like, you just look at everything with a rose tint a little bit, and then I'm such a creative, and probably a lot of entrepreneurs are, like, you know, I just kind of put this brand on everything that wasn't never actually
never
existed.
actually was there. Yeah, you like,
or maybe it was, but it wasn't
not
there all
to the
time.
same degree. Yeah.
And then
It's like you see what you want to see, not what's actually the truth.
Yeah, and then
but
you
that's
kind
what,
of question, do I miss the reality, or do I miss what I think the reality was or could have been?
Mm.
And then it's just like, I'm a fucking deep, romantic, emotional cunt anyway.
Yeah, but you're the same as me, and I think a lot of people, like, we look into things deep.
Oh God,
Like-
like if I get a text that doesn't read right, I'm not sleeping. Well, it depends who it's from, but you know, if it's from one specific person right now, but
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like, you look into things deep, but you do that the same in, like, maybe your business, like every aspect of your life. Like, I'm assuming that, like, if you're going to start, like, hitting the gym, you're going to really look into, like, what style of training, when actually you realize, like, actually I just need to exercise 5 days a week. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when you probably, like, people like us, we might look into, like, right, I need this, and then I need to do that, and I need to, when actually is like the fundamentals are very. So it can be like it can be your, like, your best trait and maybe your worst at the same time.
yeah, definitely. I always say that, like, my mind is my greatest gift and my biggest curse.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't know, like, yeah, it definitely fucks me up when shit's not good sometimes. But
yeah, that's my not no means to give advice, but I'd say if you're not 100% sure,
well, you probably are, because you've been in like a long, stable relationship.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
probably what a lot of people want. Because I definitely think it would be more productive for me to be in a stable relationship, which is ironic saying that, having just ended one that was pretty stable.
But maybe that's the answer, that she wasn't the right person. Well, I think that is the answer. Who
Yeah,
knows?
well, interesting to find the right person 8 weeks later, but I mean, maybe that's just a coping mechanism, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think, look, I think meeting the right person is by no means easy, but without all the fucking cringe shit, I think you'll
It's not cringe on this podcast.
Yeah, this is like the norm. Yeah,
legit.
You'll
Gotta
know.
cover everything.
I think you'll know. That's what I'm gonna say. Is I think you'll know when you're like, oh fuck, this person's actually proper sound, like supportive, like on the same vision. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to paint any of this shit. Like I've got friends who are like scared. Oh mate, I can't text my car. I'm going to be going out with her. I'm going to be having fajitas tonight. And it's like, do you know what I mean? You forgot it's the Champions League final. You come into the, like, we're going to be watching it. Whereas I'll just be like, sorry, forgot Champions League final, and then it'll just be like done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas some of my friends are like, oh, but she's going to fucking kill me. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, mate, don't take life too seriously. Do you know what I mean? Just like be like, nothing really fucking matters. Do you know what I mean? Like, not going to fajitas doesn't really matter. So you need, maybe that's just my perspective on things, but like, if something goes wrong, like, unless it's like your family, your health, like, nothing really matters too much, doesn't it? Like, the world can come pouring down. As long as, like, if I lost everything, we would still be, I think, in as good a relationship as we are now.
Yeah, that's the, and I'm fucking venting now, it's just, I'm not making any assumptions about myself or her, but like, yeah, because when I met, I mean, I've kind of said this before, but it's like not the opposite to you, but it's different to you.
Yeah.
Because I met her when I was being like a peak idiot, like peak money, peak spending power, peak overheads.
And was it bad?
Looking
bad
back,
is the wrong word.
Back,
Was it
was
like,
excessive? Yeah,
excessive. Yeah,
like fucking, 300 grand of cars in the garage, like on finance, and like.
Yeah, you hit it hard.
Living that penthouse over there, like, which was sick. Like, it wasn't ridiculous given the money that was coming in, but it was like, yeah. And then I went through a stressful time, and she was there for me with that. And then that's what I deep. It's like, fuck. Like,
yeah, because you've gone through the shit.
I was like, things just getting better. Now this, but yeah, because it's like, oh fuck. Well, no one in the futures. I hope no one will ever have to go through that shit with me again, because I hope I don't go through that shit. And then it's like, maybe I just want that fucking like love story. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's
maybe
what
you're painting that picture in your head. Yeah.
And then a bit of me thinks, oh fuck, did she fuck off because I don't have the sick car anymore, which I don't think at all, by the way. But that's just, yeah,
it's there.
That's the devil's advocate in your mind. It's like, I mean, I'm not fucking homeless, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
But I think that's like, anyone who has that perspective, the fucked up thing with the society is like, if you've got that Rolls Royce or whatever it is, you want people to think you're like a better like person or whatever, when actually, like, I'd probably have a better time going to like a shit pub drinking like beer with like a postman over, if they're all just good blokes, while we
Yeah,
might kind of have
facts.
deep conversations about like ecom and stuff like I actually enjoy, if they're all just good blokes, it's way better than going to Nobu with a bunch of pricks.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? So that sort of like answers it in my head. And you've probably, when you had that Ferrari, you probably had like, there were fucking sick times when you're driving down like feeling like the man, but there are probably other times when you thought like everyone's looking at me and I feel like a bit of a prick.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so it is just sort of like there's no right or wrong, because you can get in your car and it can make you feel like the absolute man.
Do you know
every
what
day.
I think in hindsight with that? Because I've always just loved cars and like,
Yeah,
it's like the obvious material thing, and it's like more standoutish than a watch because obviously it's bigger and it moves. But like, I think people used to get the wrong idea with me, like, because I just loved cars. I was always a petrolhead. I had like cars on my wall when I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And then when you get a car like that, people, I don't know, probably make assumptions about your character which aren't true at all.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, I don't know. And then you potentially open yourself up to attract the wrong sort of people. I'm not referring to my ex in that case, but like, and like people just making weird assumptions. When actually like, yeah, I'm probably like more interested in fucking walking my dog in the countryside than
that's what I mean. Like the legit things.
I've never been like the fucking go to Novikov, I've done that, but it's never been my thing.
Been you. Yeah, that's the same with me. And I think it's
I'd rather
about
have
people knowing like
people I like.
Yeah, that's exactly
genuinely
it.
though.
Yeah, and have like
I don't really appreciate fancy food that much.
No,
I like restaurants, but whatever.
No, I'm into restaurants, but it's the same. It's just about being with people. Like one thing I like. This is gonna sound fucking stupid, but where I live in London, like there's a really cool, nice coffee shop, and I get huge pleasure from just like twiddling on down there, like listening to whatever like crap, getting a coffee. They know your name, you're really friendly to them, they're really friendly to you, and it's like, this is what it's all fucking about. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not about this like bollocks. And then I've been in times where like I'm amongst like the super wealthy, and like the bill comes and it's just like, do you know what I mean? Egos flying everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just like, mate, this is not like, I know these people, like, you know, those like mega rich and they actually don't have any friends. They're just hanging out with like loads of other influencers who've got equally like, they're all just rinsing them or whatever. Like none of that. It's like, comes back to like the big house thing. Like say if you had that fucking £10 million house with like a huge kitchen, all that crap, like what would you do there? Like just, if it'd be like you and your girlfriend, it's like, oh yeah, we've got 7 rooms, just not actually doing anything. Like, should we go on a walk? Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make you, doesn't change who you are, doesn't make you any better. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really mean shit.
I think it takes people like to like their like maybe like mid-20s or like to go through some shit to start to like get a more in-depth perspective on like the world. I certainly feel like a much wiser cunt than I was even 2 years ago.
Yeah,
like pre-pandemic, I was
but
a really different person.
Yeah. But that's because I think in this business world, and especially the space we work in, you're forced to fail quick. So maybe like whilst your upside was quick, so unfortunately was the downside. And it's the same with like everything. Like things can go up and things go down, but you come off it better. You'd rather like climb the mountain, effectively.
Yeah.
But look, it's a long fucking journey we've got ahead. This life.
Yeah.
So I think we're learning at a quick rate. I think a lot of people might only figure this shit out. Like, I don't know about you, but I have fears of just getting old and just being like, what the fuck, I just wasted all that time. When actually you want a bit of a story to tell.
Yeah, it's definitely all about the story for sure. On that note, do you have a clear vision for what you actually want to do over the next few years, decades, fucking life?
No, I only really plan like a year ahead, and even that just changes all the time. But I think just constant. I think if you're constantly looking to just better yourself, like better your everything around you, then it's not a bad mindset. So it's like constantly just trying to grow, like trying to learn. I'm a big fan of. Have you read the Almanac of Naval Ravikant?
I haven't, to be fair.
Mate, get that.
People tell me I've got 6 books in my bedroom. I've been trying to fucking read more. To take my mind off other shit.
Yeah,
and
get it on the Kindle or whatever it is.
I like paper books now.
Yeah, you're into a paper book.
I want to get off my phone.
Yeah. Well, chuck the phone away, mate. That book, Naval, is just the absolute goat. So anyone who hasn't read that book, just that.
I've seen a lot of his shit on Twitter,
mate. He's figured it all out. All this life shit we're talking about.
Is it just about everything,
mate? The lot. He's just figured it. He's just figured it all out. All I would say is Naval's done all the thinking for us kids. Just like read this and just execute.
What's it called?
The
I'm gonna
almanac
buy it after
of
this.
the almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Fucking hell.
I've
Right.
got a physical
I've heard
copy, and
about
I've got it on my Kindle, so I'll send you my copy. Good for the environment, all that jazz.
it. Yeah, lit. No, I need to read that.
But yeah, that I'm a big believer in in everything he sort of preaches in that book, and I think a lot of times where I'm like you, I've had business stresses, like fuck, I thought I really wanted to do that, but now I don't want to do that, and do you know what I mean? Constantly changing. But if you just come back to like basic principles and all this, like one thing I have done, like anytime I've sort of made a mistake, like an example is I did a deal with someone over a handshake, cost me like 20k. It wasn't in contract, bit messy, never got the money. But now I've got all my lessons I try to learn is write it down. So now one of the lessons is like, make sure you have a fucking contract. So it's like, as long as you're learning over these things, like if you're learning at a quick rate, you keep improving.
Yeah.
And there's like loads of shit on there. I think it's just when you make the same mistake back to back to back, where you're actually being a bit of an idiot. But I think for people that I think we're very lucky in that the world we live in, that you can actually build successful businesses with, like, you can let the internet has allowed for like infinite leverage effectively.
Yeah, facts.
Like the fact that you could even scale the business you did that quick is fucking incredible. Do you know what I mean?
Technically from like keyboards and shit, it's just like, that's the only input.
Yeah, how many employees were there bar you? Or did you have like just agencies?
No actual employees,
yeah,
all
exactly.
agencies.
That is fucked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really add up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually make sense, the amount of turnover, the amount of thought. Like previously, that would have to have been like a huge fucking office, and then head of marketing, and then and you're just sort of like just winging it, like probably watching like a YouTube, like you can just learn anything online now, can't you?
Yeah.
Spend a bit of effort.
Can't learn to understand girls though.
No, that's one we're trying to make a course on. Yeah.
Fuck.
And when we have figured out, link in the bio, £399.
Yeah, legit. Jesus Christ. That's something I spend way too much time thinking about. All right, final question.
Yeah,
then.
go on.
I've started fucking asking it in every pod now. So 3 bits of advice to your younger self when you first started, probably when you first started anything entrepreneurial. So whenever that was, I don't know, teenagers.
Yeah. 3 bits of advice. One, I think, go all in. So I know I'm split between 2 businesses, but I see so many people who've got creative minds like ourselves, and they're just thinking like, fuck, I could actually do that and I could make a bit of money there. And then they're doing that, and then they're launching a clothing line and they actually don't have that much passion about clothing. And then like, because they just think it's cool. Like when actually just like these big decisions, spend time thinking about them, because like there could be your whole future ahead. Yeah. Rather than like, you see so many people like jump between different things like constantly. So I think advice to myself once, because I think I would have had a lot more success if I just picked one thing, even if it was just like a cleaning company or something like that. I don't think I would have just nailed it by now.
Yeah.
But it was that constant like, you see a bit of success, give it a go, move on. That's number one. I think one thing I'm trying to, one thing which definitely changed it for me was reading. And I know that's like the boring, like typical shit, but
no, it's actually facts,
mate. So no, that's actually like
I still sleep on it,
mate. That is literally a fact that if you gave someone and said like force them guns to the head is like put a read for an hour a day, you'd be so far ahead in like say over a 3, 4, 5 year period. Like disgustingly far ahead, because in a book you can basically get like these incredible people's perspectives in like a few hours, how long it takes to read. And then I think the other thing on that, which off the back of reading, it's like actually reading and taking action, not just being like, oh yeah, that was great, just trying to take action off the back of it. Final one, I think it's, I've always had this like weird element of self-belief in myself, and like you clearly have it too, where you can tell people like, right, I want to build this business and exit 100 million, but some people will look at you, you've had a past, you've built things incredibly before, so now you've got people could think, oh, he can do it, but previously, before I had all this like flash stuff and started making good money, people looking at me and go, this guy's fucking Do you know what I mean? He's crazy. Like, why is he leaving a really good job in the city so he can sell trainers? Like, I had like a leaving drinks, and everyone was like, you fucking doing what? Do you know what I mean? Like, they couldn't get their head around it. And now they're like in the DMs like, hey mate, everything's going so well. It'd be great to link up. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just like, you need to have that element of delusion where you believe that you can do it. So I suppose that comes under self-belief. But yeah, I have self-belief in hopefully everything I think I do. And I think there's very few, my idea behind that is there's very few people in the world, like there's obviously like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, who are just like, their brains are just like fucking robots or whatever. But most people who make their money and do extremely well, they're not actually ridiculously intelligent. They're just sort of like quick learners. They're just like reacting. They just learn that, pick that up. Do you know what I mean? They're just moving along, dawdling. They're not like, like none of them just got like straight A stars. Like obviously there are like the Harvards and stuff like that. But normally it's just like they're just normal people like you and I. So I think you need to have that element of self-belief. Just go like, fucking, I think I can do it. That's it.
Yeah. Sweet. All right, on that note, we'll wrap it up. Fucking that went quick, didn't it? Let's go so quick. Over an hour and a half.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, Christ, could probably go on for ages. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the episode as usual. We're actually recording 3 this week, not that you'd know if you're watching. Fucking hell, we're getting some momentum with the poddy, boys. I say boys, it's literally 99% male audience. Yeah, if you're enjoying, subscribe, like, share it to a mate, all that good stuff. Appreciate the love on the pod, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers for watching.